Welcome to North Shore TV's Teen TV. I'm Alex Brosky, and today I'm here with someone truly special, author and founder of Mindful Reading Inc., Madeleine Chin. Madeleine, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Nice. So is this the first time you've done a TV interview?
No, I've actually been to one other place.
Oh, so you're pretty experienced then, I guess, right?
I'm okay.
So, for the people at home who don't know you very well, how would you describe yourself?
I would say I'm very creative when I'm not watching on my phone, and I'm funny.
Well, other than watching things on your phone, do you have any hobbies that you do, outside of the writing?
I'm an obvious bookworm.
Mm-hmm.
I love to dance. I also play basketball with my friends, and that's pretty much it.
Well, you mentioned, of course, you're a big bookworm. When did you realize that you really liked reading?
I've always knew I loved reading, probably because my parents have always been reading to me at night ever since I was little, and especially in first grade, when I really became an avid reader. I was reading a whole bunch of series. I sped run through series. That was when I knew I wanted to become a writer.
Well, what was the book that made you think in your head, like, I want to be a writer too, not just read these books?
It was like a series. It wasn't a particular book. It was called Rainbow Magic, and it's a series about a bunch of fairies. And for some reason that really stuck to me and struck me at the same time, because it was just so magical, and I always wanted to write a very magical story that made me feel like I was part of that world.
So you started writing at age 7, which is crazy. I mean, that's 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
But back then, when you were 7, what were you writing about?
I was writing a lot of stories similar to Rainbow Magic. I wrote about fairies, but they were called winter fairies. And, I never really did write about much. Like, I had these pieces of printer paper. During center time, I would fold them. And then I would spend basically the entire center time drawing the cover, and I never actually got past to writing anything. But a lot of my ideas were about dragons, girls with magical powers, fairies, just like spin-offs of Rainbow Magic.
Well, your first book was called Protector Stones, correct?
Yeah.
How old were you when you wrote that?
I was like 9.
And what's that about?
Oh, the story, it's about a girl named Leanie Kung, and I actually got the name Leanie by taking my name Madeleine, and I split it in half, took off the M-A-D-E, and I was left with the L-E-I-N-E. And it's about Leanie, who finds herself in a magical world called Orlzea, where she realizes she is part of the destined marked ones to stop her evil grandmother from taking over Orlzea.
That's a very interesting story. I mean, where did that come from? Just that big imagination that you have that you've clearly used to write that book. Where did that come from?
Well, it all started from this prompt book my mom gave me when I was in 4th grade. And a prompt book is like a bunch of pages filled with different prompts. Like, this particular one that inspired me to write Protector Stones was like, oh, I always knew that fairy godmothers are supposed to be like kind and doting old grandmothers, and like bibbidi bobbidi boo, there's a pumpkin. But why is my fairy godmother chasing me? Now I'm running for my life. And it was like, an evil fairy godmother? Like, 8-year-old me was like, like, that broke the stereotype. And I was like, I really want to write a story about this somehow. So I changed fairy godmother to grandmother. And once I knew there was an evil grandmother in my story, the rest of the plot just kind of fell into place.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But after that, you wrote Behind the Spotlight. What's that about?
It's largely drawn from my experience as a former competitive dancer. I've been dancing since I was 3, and I faced a lot of challenges, like being basically the worst of my dance team. I had 0 flexibility. I couldn't do a cartwheel, nothing that all of my other friends were doing. And I wrote about my experience and my problems, and I turned it into this character whose name is Mela. And I wrote about how she conquered these things, even when I may not have. And that's what inspired me to write her story, because of my own.
Well, dancing might not be your thing, but clearly you're a great writer. Who's really inspired you? Who's helped guide you through the publishing process?
Well, my mom has been amazing. She's always been by my side. She's the one who first told me that I could publish my book on Amazon. And she just researched, she stayed up late and helped me edit my books, helped me just figure out the whole process. She watched videos on how to use Kindle Direct Publishing, which is a self-publishing service offered by Amazon. She was just so supportive the entire way, and I could not have done anything related to writing without her, really.
Well, of those 2 books that we mentioned earlier, which one do you think was harder to write?
Probably my second book, Behind the Spotlight, because I didn't really have an outline, and Protect Your Stones had an outline. I followed it, and I knew what I was going to write about. But Behind the Spotlight, I started writing in 5th grade when I was actually in the middle of writing Protect Your Stones. And I was just writing as I went because it was drawn from my own experience. I didn't really feel like I needed an outline. But it turned out I did. And there was a lot of times where I felt writer's block, and that, I think, made writing it so much harder.
Well, speaking of writer's block, how have you overcome that whenever you feel like you just can't write anything?
I usually take a break. And it can be a very long break, as much as it sounds bad to say. It could be like a month, it could be 2 months, it could be 3 months. But sometimes all you really need is just a break from the screen and a break from what you're writing about. And then a few months later, maybe a few weeks later, a few days later, you come back and your mind is a new slate. Like, actually, my 3rd book I'm writing about, it's top secret, by the way. I started writing, I was writing it before 8th grade started, and then I was just so stuck. I didn't know what to do, and I already had an outline, but I just didn't feel motivated to stick to it. So after 8th grade, which, what is it like now, 4 months, 3 months? 3 months, 4 months later, I came back to my laptop and I started writing again. And all these new ideas came to me. I felt like I was in the writing zone, and it just felt so much better. And really, I think time is all you need to conquer writer's block.
Yeah, and when you're in that writing zone that you just talked about, what does your routine look like? Are you writing in the morning or at night? And just how does your day go?
I can't write in the morning because I'm not a morning person. And now I try to sleep a lot earlier. So what I normally do is I come home from school, and once I finish my schoolwork, then maybe an hour before dinner, I just sit down at my bedroom, and then I open up my laptop, and then maybe I put on some music, maybe I don't feel like it, and then I just write. And then I have 2 tabs open. I have my outline, and then I have my work in progress on Microsoft Word.
Obviously it's not easy to write books, especially at your age. So how do you stay motivated to finish a book?
That's a very good question, because ever since 1st grade up to 5th grade, I wrote hundreds of drafts, and they're all either in the garbage or the recycle bin, or they're in an archive file. I don't know, but I tried so many different stories, and they never worked because I never had an outline. I didn't know what my story was going to do. I was too impatient, I was too lazy to actually sit down and spend months creating an outline. So finally Protect Your Stones came, the idea, and my mom was like, you should actually make an outline. So I did, and I wrote everything out chapter by chapter. And that's what really kept me to stick to the story, because I knew what was going to happen, and I liked what was going to happen. So I was like, just keep going, one more chapter, and you can write about that one scene you really want to write about.
Well, speaking of that one scene that you really want to write about, do you have a favorite scene that you've written?
Not a particular scene, but I love writing endings or cliffhangers or endings, because you can milk everything, and then you can be like, I did that a lot in Behind the Spotlight, the ending of Behind the Spotlight. I was like, I'm not going to spoil it, but it was so dramatic, and it was so powerful. And then I wrote that last sentence, and I was like, wow, that was beautiful. And it's fun because you can you don't have to write in paragraphs. You can just indent and then enter, and then your lines just slowly get smaller because for dramatic effect. And yeah.
Well, what tools are you using to write? Are you writing on a Google Doc? I'm assuming it's on a screen. You're not writing in a notebook, but
Yeah,
what are you using?
The platform I'm using to write my actual story is on Microsoft Word, but I'm writing my outline on Google Docs.
Okay. So, the big thing, you founded Mindful Reading Inc., a nonprofit, when you were in 7th grade. So that's pretty incredible. What sparked that idea?
Well, actually, I got featured on some newspapers, including the Week Junior, because of my books. And somehow I actually got some of my readers to reach out to me via email. And it was just really amazing because they were like, oh my God, you've inspired me. You've shown me that I can become a writer too. You know, I could write my own books. I've always wanted to write a book, but I don't know how. Do you have tips on how to conquer writer's block? And I was like, oh my God, like my readers are reaching out to me and they're talking about how I've inspired them. Like, I never thought in a million years that would ever happen to me, but it did. And I was like, how can I make even more of an impact? Because it felt good hearing that, like, maybe I show them that their dreams could come true. As weird as that sounds, it made me feel like I could help them achieve something in their life. And I was like, what better way to do that than just maybe donate some books? That was all mindful reading was really gonna be, just donate some books. And then it turned a lot bigger. But really that's how I got the idea to create mindful reading.
Well, that's really nice. And outside of the kids that have reached out to you, that have read your books, when did you realize that there's also kids that need a little extra encouragement to read?
Well, my cousins, for instance, we give them a lot of books because we have so many books in my basement, like thousands. And we just give them books every time we come over, like Thanksgiving, we gave them like a bunch of books. And like, they like the pictures, but they don't love the words. And it's like, like you have the books if you ever decide to like it, but you can't really force them to liking something. I think I started loving reading because my parents have been reading to me at an early age. But yeah, sometimes you just can't force that type of love on someone. Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely familiar with giving books to people. You've given over 4,000 books, donated them to 1,600 students. I mean, what accomplishment are you most proud of there?
I'm proud of my speaking. If you spoke to me last year and you told me that I would have spoken 19 different times in front of hundreds of kids, I would not have believed you. Like, it's absolutely crazy how much I feel comfortable. I can get on that stage and I can talk to these kids, and then I see them after I'm done, they raise their hand. 50 kids raised their hand last time I spoke to a school, and it just means a lot because I can see them in person and I see what they're saying to me, and it just means a lot more when you're not reading words on a screen, you're seeing them. And also after I'm done speaking, they actually come up to me a lot of times and they're like, wow, you've done so much. I can't believe you're only 12 or 13. And I was like, thank you. And then they're like, now I want to be an author when I grow up. And it's like, wow.
Wow, that's really nice. I mean, you just clearly make a huge impact on so many students. And you give these presentations to schools, correct?
Yeah.
So what exactly does that look like? Walk me through it.
Sure. So if you're talking about some of them where I skip the last period of school, then I would love to talk about that. So I walk out of school and I feel like I'm on top of the world because everyone else is suffering in 9th period. And then my dad is waiting for me outside and he has maybe some bubble tea or maybe a mango smoothie, and I hop in and it's a 1 hour drive to the next school, but it's okay because I'm missing school. And he brought from home some papers, my presentations on it, for me to practice. I have a script. I just go over it. I practice. And then I go to school, and then I go on the stage, and then I just wait for the students to file in, and then I just speak.
Wow. So what's a story from your nonprofit work that really stayed with you, just that you feel most connected to?
I think it's when I went to a school for their career day, and after I was done speaking, like 5 different girls who just came up to me and they like hugged me and they gathered me in a hug, and it was just so heartwarming. And they were like, each of them, they said like, oh my God, like I really want to become an author now. And another one was like, oh, I've been writing stories, but now you show me like I can get them published. And it felt like surreal. Like I couldn't believe that there were people that I had just spoken to, they were hugging me, and they're like, wow, you've shown me something I can do in my life, and I can do it early. Like I don't have to wait till I'm like 30 in college and stuff. Yeah.
So the AAPI Stories for Kids initiative, so AAPI stands for Asian American Pacific Islander. So why was increasing access to AAPI stories so important to you?
Well, I was in 5th grade when I first read my first book that had an AAPI character, or an Asian character in this case. It was Friendest by Kelly Yang. And 5th grade isn't like a terribly late age to read a book that has an AAPI character. But I don't think that should be like the normal. Like I think maybe like when you're in 2nd grade, that should be little more better, I guess, than reading your first AAPI character book in 5th grade. So I worked with the Great Neck Library, Shelter Rock Library, and I also contacted my own school, and I reached out to them asking about creating a permanent shelf in their libraries dedicated to AAPI stories. So anytime a kid walks into the library, they know exactly where to go to find the books. Because it's not like the books aren't there. They're just kind of like hidden. And sometimes they're not as easily accessible as a lot of kids may prefer. And I feel like that eventually when there's like a whole unveiling of the shelf in the Great Neck Library and other libraries that I might contact in the future, I feel like that's what's gonna mean like the world to the kids and me.
I mean, yeah, you've donated nearly 200 AAPI books to your local Great Neck Library, so that's very cool. And you also work with the South Asian Youth Action, right? So viewers who might not know, what is that exactly?
It's a South Asian nonprofit 501c3, and I've actually worked with them. I went to the after-school programs. I spoke to their kids, and I also donated hundreds of different books for them to take home.
Wow, that's very cool. So what's next for you? I know you mentioned earlier that you have a 3rd book that you're working on, and you said that's top secret, but what can you tell me? What's next? Well,
I can tell you that that book is not going to be released anytime soon. I'm very late behind. I don't even have a deadline, but I feel like I'm late behind. And I can tell you it's fantasy. That's all I can tell you.
I mean, you're very busy. Obviously, you're still in school.
Yeah.
And then you're also working on that book, and you have that nonprofit. And back to that nonprofit, I mean, where do you see Mindful Reading Inc. in 5 years?
5 years? It hasn't even been 1 year, and I feel like we've already done so much. So my only hope is that it's gonna expand maybe like nationally, maybe globally. I don't know. I don't want to set my expectations too far, but I feel like we're definitely not gonna like die out. I think we're gonna definitely expand. I think this could become like a really great thing because we've done so much in just 1 year.
Yeah, and what advice do you have for kids who might want to write but might feel nervous or unsure about it?
Well, I'll say, why the heck are you nervous? It's Google Docs. No one can steal, like, it's not like back in the days where you maybe have to write a diary and you're worried that your little sister will steal it from you. Like, everything's like online now. Don't be nervous. Just spill your thoughts out there. Don't be afraid to try something new. Because there's no consequence, and B, just because you never know where an idea might take you. And another thing I would tell them is to never give up. Like, even if it takes years, even if it takes you beyond high school, college, however many years it takes, just don't give up, because and with hard work, you can literally achieve anything you want.
And what about those kids that want to be more like you, take that extra mile, start a nonprofit too? What would you say to them?
I'd say you should definitely contact an adult you trust, because there's a lot of paperwork, becoming a 501c3 nonprofit, tax stuff. If you want to become like a nonprofit first, then you should have an adult sort through the paperwork for you. But if you have a really unique idea, then I would say list out the initiatives you want to do and research ways how you can get them done. And maybe find connections. You can ask teachers, you can ask guidance counselors, like, hey, do you have any ideas I can do into this topic, ABCD? Or like, maybe go online and you can find different resources like volunteers and who may be looking to be interested in your work.
All right, Madeleine, thank you so much for sharing everything about yourself and for inspiring so many young people. And you can learn more about her work at mindfulreading.org and madelinechinwrites.com, and follow her Instagram at madelinechinwrites. Thank you for watching Teen TV. I'm Alex Brosky. See you next time.